Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unites. All right, so the news today is that there was a truck filled with explosives that exploded on the Crimean Bridge, also known as the Kerch Strait Bridge, because it runs from coastal Russia to the Kerch region in Crimea. So there was a truck that exploded, took took out part of the bridge. It also affected a train that was on the other part of the bridge, and several fuel tankers exploded in this attack. This is now Ukraine is not claiming responsibility for this, but they're praising this, attack. Of course, who else would do this? Who else would do this? And a little bit of a background on the Crimean Bridge. This has been recognized as an engineering marvel. It is the longest bridge in Europe, one of the longest in the world. And it's not only the length of the bridge, but how quickly Russia managed to build this bridge, which only took them something like 2 years to construct this bridge. So it is an engineering marvel. This bridge is used primarily for civilian traffic. Most of the traffic on the bridge are supply trucks that go from Russia into Crimea. For all the people that are claiming Crimea, is all that instrumental in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, the truth is that's just not much of a thing. Now, yes, there are Russian forces in Crimea. The Black Sea Fleet is based in Crimea. But there's not much of a naval battle going on here. And that's most of what the Russian forces are. Now, Crimea can act as a fallback point for soldiers in Ukraine when they need rest or medical care or something like that. But let me show you a little example, little bit of this. All right, so this is Crimea right here. So this is the Kerch Strait Bridge over here, right there. All right, so forces and equipment coming from Russia, it makes no sense that they would be going down through Crimea because, all right, here is the Kherson region. Then you got Melitopol, Mariupol, Zaporozhye, Donetsk, Luhansk. All right, this is the Russian border over here. All right, so Russia is sending forces and equipment to all of these regions over here. All right, so they can go straight across the border right here. Why would they be sending forces and equipment down this direction, all the way over here, all the way down and across Crimea and upward? No, what this is really all about with Ukraine is just resentment. that Crimea voted to rejoin Russia in 2014. And let me also point out something that in 2014, prior to 2014, Crimea was an autonomous region of Ukraine. They had their own parliament, their own prime minister, their own foreign minister. They were, for all intents and purposes, their own country. They had the right to hold a referendum. But Ukraine never saw it that way. They still don't see it that way. So they've, again, attacked civilian infrastructure. This is far from the first time that Ukraine has been doing this. They have been bombing civilian centers, cities like Donetsk. They're bombing the Zaporozhye nuclear plant. The recent attack on the pipeline, Nordstream pipelines, that was a terrorist attack. And again, nobody has claimed responsibility for it. Ukraine does not accept responsibility for anything that they do. For 8 years, they were attacking the Donbass regions using, mercenary forces mostly, but then eventually neo-Nazi military forces attacking the Donbass region, torturing people, killing civilians, and seizing territory from the Donbass regions. Well, by using mercenaries, the Ukrainian government could deny responsibility for this. But then they incorporated these neo-Nazi groups into the Ukrainian National Guard. From that point on, you can't claim that you have no responsibility for this. They are part of your government. They are part of your military. So all of these things you can definitely call terrorist attacks. So there is the very strong possibility at this point that Russia may turn around and just call this the Ukrainian government a terrorist organization, and they would have every right to do so. Ramp that up to Zelensky calling for NATO to conduct a nuclear first strike on Russia. How much more insane, how much more terroristic can you be? Everyone knows you launch nuclear weapons and it just spirals. It goes parabolic. And it means the end of the world. Now, Zelensky tried walking that back and saying, well, that's not what I meant. No, if you listen to what he had to say, that was exactly what he meant. It is not a question. All right, at this point, the word coming out is that the recruits being sent, the draftees being sent from Russia to Donbass, 50,000 of them are either already there or are headed that way right now. They have established, as far as their training is concerned, there have been training camps that have been established back behind the front lines. Now, these are already trained and experienced soldiers what they are training on is how to coordinate under the commands that they will be serving under. So these forces will already be there. One part of what this does is that it allows more of the frontline troops to not have to go back, away from the front lines until these troops are trained. But, it's expected like maybe 2 weeks of training, that's all. And then these forces that are being called over there now are going to be in the front line. So that's 50,000, and the rest are going to follow. Contrary to popular belief, there is massive support for this within Russia. Most of the criticism that the Russian government has gotten from within Russia was that the people thought that Putin should have been more aggressive, not less so. They thought that they should have been more aggressive. There is so much support that they were talking about calling off their New Year's celebrations to divert the money and resources that would go into these celebrations to support the soldiers that are being deployed. Now, the Russian government said, no, you don't need to do that because, they're going to have the best equipment and all of this kind of stuff. So, there have been some debates within Russia on the quality of the facilities and so forth that they've been in. But they probably had to reopen old facilities for this purpose up until now. Hell, when I was in the Army, part of the time that I was there, including when I got called back for Desert Storm, I was being housed in a World War I barracks in Maryland. World War I, not II, I. Those barracks were literally built in the 1915. And that was what I was sleeping in. So I don't really want to hear about the quality of some barracks that these guys were being held in. They're soldiers. They're going to adapt. They're going to be out on a battlefield. You don't need a 4-star hotel to, for your, center before you get deployed. It's not, it would be nice, but it's really not necessary. Now, as far as whether NATO goes in and tries to invade Russia, this would be the most foolish thing and would be so doomed. I mean, look at all the equipment and all this stuff that's been flowing into Ukraine, and it's done no good. Look at what happened with the United States and Afghanistan and Iraq. Go back to Vietnam. You put all this together, it's highly questionable whether all of NATO could defeat Russia. And if they came in and, invaded Russia, they would be getting a response directly from China for very good reason. Let me go to this other map here. Look at this map here, which shows you, all right, this is Russia, and here's Ukraine, all right. Okay, so if NATO invaded Russia and tried to occupy Russia, well, here's China right here. And here's Mongolia. Mongolia is going to be on China's side. There are more Mongolians living in China than there are in Mongolia. So yeah, Mongolia is going to be on China's side. China is going to be on Russia's side. They already have a military agreement on that. What else are you going to do? If NATO tried to occupy Russia, that would just encircle China. I mean, aside from Japan aside from North Korea, aside from North Korea, that would mean that China was pretty much encircled. So yes, China would respond if Russia were invaded. You put the Russian military and the Chinese military together and think that you're going to defeat that. When you have to go all the way across Europe, all the way across the Pacific Ocean, how do you think this is going to work? The only way it could work would be a nuclear war, which would obliterate all life on the planet. And how terrorist is that? I will keep reiterating. I am in favor of peace. There needs to be peace talks. But now Ukraine is resorting to terrorist attacks. Pardon me. Been kind of sick. And it looks very likely that they're being backed up by the United States. What is happening to Europe right now with their hyperinflation, deindustrialization, the fuel prices, gas shortages? We can consider that a form of state terrorism as well. This is not going to end well for the United States or for Ukraine. Now, if Russia turns around and says, okay, this is now no longer a special military operation, this is a response to terrorism, that opens up any response that they feel fit. Now, Russia does always establish limits on what they will do. And they publicize what those limits are. They state them clearly. And they stick to those limits. If Russia really wanted to take out the Ukrainian government, they would have done so at the very beginning. Instead, they have allowed the Ukrainian government to stay in place, and it is still Russia stating, we need to negotiate. And it is still Ukraine that is stating, no, we won't. This is their response to bomb civilian infrastructure, to bomb civilian population centers, to destroy civilian infrastructure, supply routes for Crimea, and to attack the Nordstream pipeline so that it is what they thought would no longer be an option for Europe to receive gas from Russia. That doesn't sound like anybody that wants peace, does it? All right? Until Americans get out there and start screaming, we need peace talks, I don't think it's going to happen. And one of two things has to happen. The Ukrainian military has to completely collapse, or the American economy is going to have to collapse. And that's coming. Even if there were peace talks today, that is still coming. And it's not far off. All right, share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can afford it, please donate whatever you can to help expand this channel and my presidential campaign. And I will catch you in the next one. Have a good day.